Hello and welcome to another edition of our Sawdust City Happy Hour tastings. Marshall Ferguson, as always, alongside Sam Corbeil, Sam, you just got off a canning. Are you allowed to say what you were canning today? Am I revealing any company secrets of Sawdust City beer?
Oh, no, we were actually canning our last run of Tropical Storm Mojito.
Ah,
It will, as its time comes to an end, we have Tropical Storm Mimosa blowing in right behind it, and that will come summer.
awesome. Well, if you want a full review and a tasting to watch of the Tropical Storm Mojito, then you can check that out on the YouTube page that you're already on. Just go through the playlist that we have here of all things Sawdust City and the tastings. Today, we are doing something a little bit different. This is LÜMBERBRÄU, which I was joking with you before we came on. Reese Demaney, who used to work with me on radio, minor league baseball guy out in Brantford, and he saw the branding on this can. And because we were sports radio and we were over TSN in Hamilton, he jumped at the opportunity. He's, can I have that? That looks amazing. I'm like, yeah, sure. And he sent me it afterwards, a picture of him drinking it on like the day after our radio station got shut down. He said, A, this was much needed today. B, this is delicious. So tell us about LÜMBERBRÄU.
Well, LÜMBERBRÄU is actually named after one of our brewers, James, his baseball team. They're called the Lumber Kings. They're in town here. So a couple of years ago, we were all brewing beers for specific reasons, and he wanted to brew a beer that they could have after baseball. So he wanted something light, super crushable. So we made a rice-based lager and called it LÜMBERBRÄU because that's what you do. And it's exactly that. It's just a super refreshing beer, very light. The rice adds sort of takes away a little bit of the maltiness, so it's just even easier to drink. And it's only 4.2%. So
yeah,
very low ABV, very refreshing, perfect for a super long, frustrating canning run.
yes, absolutely. As you were dealing with today, I'm sure trying to get through that as it was run a little long on you. But this is, when you talk about it being kind of that rice factoring into it, what does that mean for people that aren't familiar with the idea of working with kind of a rice-based beer?
Well, rice is just it doesn't have as high protein as regular barley malt. The color is much lighter, and it doesn't add as much of that sort of grainy flavor, so it lightens everything up. So we use about 10% rice flakes, which lightens the color, lightens the body, and it does one of the unfortunate things about using rice is you sort of have to figure out a way to get a little bit more head retention, which is more the nerdy stuff on the brewing side. But the rest of it after that, the lagering period, is the same as we do any of our lagers. We go 4 to 6 weeks at zero. It's super cool, so it's very refreshing and clean. And we usually we've been actually brewing it all year. It was supposed to just be a summer release, but it's become a pretty big fan favorite. So we've been rolling with it all year. The label, as you can see, it's got like guy catching the ball with his mitt. And, it's not just for baseball. You can use it for football or hockey or soccer.
It's funny because it actually does. It does remind me a lot of kind of stadium style beers, right? Where it's light, it's crushable, it's something that people can enjoy first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. I know that you had talked with Connor and Wade from our All Canadian show here on CFP about kind of the tailgate mentality. LÜMBERBRÄU is kind of a perfect tailgate beer as well. Just thinking about like a hot summer day, you're down at Tim Hortons Field or Mosaic Stadium in Regina, whatever it might be, and you got it on ice and you pull it out and it's 30 degrees and you're in an area that's all concrete and pavement and you get an opportunity to just be able to enjoy something that's really, really smooth. Because when you're talking about the color being lighter, the body being lighter, for me, it's like really, really smooth and almost like delicate in the way that it kind of hits your mouth.
Yeah, we as much as it is, some people can look down their nose at a light lager. Like there still is a lot of care and precision goes into this. When the beers are lighter and there's not a lot to hide behind, you have to be very careful not to make any mistakes, or they're very noticeable. So we still take the same time and energy that we would with LÜMBERBRÄUs to any of our beers. We still use adding rice doesn't necessarily, it's not a negative. It's just, if you have a purpose and you stick to it, like light beer deserves love too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a lot of places in the beer world that people that have certainly been following along with the tastings that we've done here have realized that you guys have a little bit of something for everybody, right? And so this is kind of in that family of the lighter stuff that still needs its appreciation, because like you're saying, there's not everybody wants to sit down and have a lusciousness, right? Not everybody wants to sit down with a binary system and crush an 8-9% heavy body double IPA or something like that.
Exactly. This is, and if you finish mowing the lawn and it's 30 degrees outside, the last thing you want is 10%. Yeah. So 4.2% log might be more up your alley. Yeah, it's very, very refreshing, super light, great for summer, great for winter. You know, whatever you're doing, it's a good post-activity drink. And or if you just want one or two and you're the driver, it's a good idea to have a couple LÜMBERBRÄU on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. Tell us something interesting about the making of LÜMBERBRÄU, the process that goes into this, because I am fascinated by the little details that go into making this stuff that we just, as people who drink beer, we just don't know, right? Unless you are a brewer yourself, or you know somebody that you have conversations with consistently that are brewing.
Well, we start with a very low original gravity, so that keeps the ABV low, but it also finishes very low, so that's why it's so dry and drinkable. There's not a lot of residual sugar. It finishes well below 2 Plato, so it's in that 1.8% sugar, so very, very low, very dry, and still you get that 4%. So the body is also a little lighter, so we spend a lot of time, you know, making sure it still has enough to be, you know, feel like a beer. You don't want it super light that it feels like water. You're reminded it's beer, but you're still very refreshed when you're done. And then we ferment it for, like I said, we take about 10 days on primary and up to 60 days on secondary. So, you know, it's in the fermenter for quite a while. All that like lets the flavors come together, lagers and like all those flavors come together, make it super clean and clear and crisp and exactly what you're looking for. Like, you know, Bud Light or Coors Light, you might poo-poo them again even further because they're big beer, but it does take a certain amount of skill and ingenuity to make the same product millions of times in a row and make it exactly the same. And to the very demanding specifications. I mean, they have a lot of science and money on their side, but you have to to some degree respect the amount of energy and time they put into making that repeatable and same quality every single time. So we try to do that on a very, very, very small scale.
It is funny though to think about, because I have never considered that, right? That they have to have that, because if somebody ends up getting a batch of Coors Light or Budweiser that doesn't taste exactly like they are used to, that's a bad thing for them, because they want it to be the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So yeah, the idea of like, I do love the idea of somebody that works at those kind of big beer going, oh no, we had a bad batch. And it's like, well, somebody might have had it and loved it, and somebody might have had it and hated it, right? Because that's the nature of the standardized beer.
Oh, I mean, they're not always brewing it in the same place. So like if you're brewing it on the West Coast or the East Coast or wherever, it has to be the same. The water's not the same, you know, the tank's not the same, the brew house is different. So they have to take a lot of other things into consideration. And, you know, we're always here. I mean, we do have great fluctuations in, you know, between batches of malt. And so it might be 7-8 weeks between brewing LÜMBERBRÄU and the batch of malt that we got is different from the last one. So there will be a little bit of difference, but we have to do our best and all that we have to make it the same the next time. Because, you know, these light beers, like I said earlier, they are very delicate. And if you make any mistakes, and people do notice, batch to batch, they they'll never know. They do almost immediately and every time. So we take a lot of pride and care in making sure that they are as close to the one before as we can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I wish that it was 30 degrees outside. I wish that I was cutting the lawn right now, but it's been pouring in Hamilton. It's been pouring in Hamilton for about 2 straight days, but it doesn't make this taste any worse. It's delicious. Again, it is LÜMBERBRÄU, and you can get it at sawdustcitybeer.com is the place to go. Check out our podcast if you want the promo code to be able to get yourself some deals on all of that stuff. Sam, thank you as always. This is another great one for you. And I got to say as well, on the way out here, I'm fascinated by the bubble culture. I'm fascinated by it sticking to the side of the glass in some places, tiny bubbles in others, tight bubbles, and then big ones in the middle. I don't know, man. I've never understood that part of the game either, but maybe that's for another day.
Hey, we can always talk about that another day, man.
Thank you. Cheers.